This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world. A U.S. drone strike killed 3 people in northwest Pakistan earlier today, marking the first such attack since Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif publicly called for President Obama to end the strikes. Just last week, Amnesty International said the United States may be committing war crimes by killing innocent Pakistani civilians in drone strikes. In a new report, Amnesty closely examined 2 drone strikes in 2012, including one that killed a 68-year-old woman in North Waziristan who was picking vegetables in a field with her grandchildren.
Well, on Tuesday, the dead woman's son and her 2 grandchildren, who were with her in the field, spoke at a congressional briefing in Washington, D.C. It marked the first time victims of the U.S. drone wars addressed members of Congress. 9-year-old Nabila described how she was injured when working in the field with her grandmother when the drone hit them.
It was the day before Eid, and my grandmother had asked me to come help her outside as we were collecting okra, the vegetables, and then I saw from the sky a drone, and I heard the dum-dum noise. Everything was dark and I couldn't see anything, but I heard a scream. I don't know if it was my grandmother, but I couldn't see her. I was very scared, and all I could think of doing was just run. I kept running, but I felt something in my hand, and I looked to my hand, there was blood. I tried to bandage my hand, but the blood kept coming. The blood wouldn't stop.
That was 9-year-old Nabila Raymond describing the October 2012 U.S. drone attack that killed her grandmother. Her brother, 13-year-old Zupair, who was injured with shrapnel wounds in the strike, told Congress, quote, "My grandmother was nobody's enemy." It was the first time ever Congress has heard directly from drone strike victims. However, just 5 lawmakers, all Democrats, chose to attend. Congressmember Alan Grayson organized the briefing.
There needs to be increased oversight of the decisions to fly lethal weapons over another nation and kill people. And we should never accept that children and other loved ones in a faraway land are acceptable collateral damage.
Later in the program, we'll speak with members of the Raymond family here in our New York studio, but we'll begin with a new documentary called Unmanned, America's Drone Wars by filmmaker Robert Greenwald. The film looks at the impact of U.S. drone strikes through more than 70 interviews with drone survivors in Pakistan, a former U.S. drone operator, military officials, and more. The film opens with the story of a 16-year-old Tariq Aziz, who lived in a Pakistani village that had been hit by drones many times. In 2011, he attended an anti-drone conference in Islamabad.
It would have been a 7 or 8 hour trip for the 16-year-old Tariq through treacherous terrain, through potential Taliban hotspots, and of course under drone surveillance.
It was the first time that the international media, the drone victims, the tribal elders, and the general public came together. It was held in a 5-star hotel. The tribal elders spoke in terms of political implications, how they felt, and the drone victims spoke about personal stories.
These drones attack us, and the whole world is silent.
I raised my voice to take a stand.
You press a button and annihilate entire families and tribes there.
This is a part of the drone missile that was used to kill that child.
It was a gathering to get the voice of the victims of drone attacks out to the general public as well as the rest of the world.
And that was the main goal. We were going to use the media to try and establish who had been killed and also why, where and how.
Well, because of the inaccessibility of Waziristan, it's very, very hard to compile any kind of credible evidence or evidence that other people will see as credible. That was part of the reason we organised this conference in Islamabad.
We called it a jirga.
A jirga is a traditional tribal gathering.
That's what people in that area use to settle their disputes.
This is simply indiscriminate bombing. There are so many women and children killed.
At one stage I came across a young boy, Tariq Aziz, When I was talking to Tariq, one of the first things that he did was he handed me his cousin's student ID card. And as I looked at it, I looked back at Tariq and I noticed that he was crying. He started to tell me the story of his cousin who had been killed from a drone strike. He'd come to the Jirga primarily to inform us a little bit more about what had happened to his cousin, to people in his local village, and find out how to stop the killing. And we sat together all day, we ate together at lunchtime, we laughed together, we became friends. Tariq was extremely intelligent and funny to be around. He had a nice sense of humour. He was fascinated by photography and intrigued by Western music, mentioning artists, and one that sprang to mind was Lady Gaga. He started to talk about drone strikes in his village, how he was unable to sleep at night. He was scared, he was worried about his family, his friends. Tariq was traumatized.
He wanted to talk about how he was affected by drone attacks and basically to give the message that the people of Waziristan want justice against the killings of innocent civilians under drone attacks that are operated by the US.
I've been to Waziristan and have taken pictures and collected evidence that neither the CIA nor the American government can disprove. But the most painful story that I have come across was of the children. The brother was killed in a drone strike, but what they didn't know was their parents were also killed.
And the people who had gathered there adopted a resolution condemning the strikes. The outcome of the Jirga was a big success because it allowed people to come together, listen to stories, and come to a common resolution. Then we went together to a rally, and Tariq Aziz traveled there with us.
We travelled towards the rally, and Tariq sat next to me. He seemed relaxed. He was laughing with his friends. Tariq and everybody else got out, and they went to the rally.
Thousands of Pakistanis came to support a giant rally on Sunday.
The protest against the United States drone attacks in Pakistan.
The drones are violating the people of Pakistan as well as their human rights.
People from all over the country, irrespective of their ages and backgrounds, came together to the rally.
We want to send a message to America. The more drone attacks you conduct, the more people will resent you.
After that, Tariq Aziz and the other attendees returned to their homes.
He said the rally in Islamabad was huge and that it would help our voices get heard.
We were preparing for the soccer match the next day. We told Tariq to pick up extra players for our game. Tariq left to tell some players, and we left to tell others. We were listening to music in the car. Tariq's brother was with me.
The car was completely destroyed, and the bodies of Tariq and his cousin were badly burned.
We took their bodies out and put them into our car.
When I saw Tariq's body, I became very upset and disturbed. Other people took me away because I became faint.
It was deeply disturbing to see the dead bodies of our friends and relatives.
Two days later, I got a call.
When the attack took place, I was in school in Bamyan.
You know, I heard about Tariq a few days later after I'd gone back to England.
We were at prayer when we found out.
I got an email.
I was at work when we found out.
You got an email and a telephone call.
4 days after the Jirga, I received an email from Shahzad. The email simply said Tariq as the heading, and I opened it instantly. To my shock, I found out that Tariq had been murdered by a drone strike. And that was a shock. I was like, how is it possible? Where was he? What was he doing? And it's like completely unbelievable.
He was just an innocent student. He was my student.
They say that Tariq has been killed. I could not believe it.
My initial thoughts were, this wasn't happening. This was just a dream.
We didn't think that Tariq, the 16-year-old kid who wanted to talk about football, would be killed in a drone attack the same week that we'd met him.
An excerpt from the new documentary Unmanned, America's Drone Wars by filmmaker Robert Greenwald. He'll join us after break, along with human rights attorney Jennifer Gibson of the British group Reprieve. Then we'll speak with the Pakistani family who lost their grandmother in a U.S. drone strike and came to Washington to testify before Congress. You'll meet Zubair, he's 13 years old. Nabila, she's 9. They were both wounded. And their father, a school teacher, Rafiq Rehman, who is the son of the woman who was killed. Stay with us.